All right, welcome back everyone to The Yard. I'm Darryl Scotti, and today I'm joined with co-host, producer, and creative director Alex Chacon and special guest Curtis Grippe. We had an incredible first segment. If you didn't get a chance to see it, go back. Some great questions. In this interview, we're going to be talking a little bit about the industry challenges and some of the difficulties that come up by being a musician and a producer. So with the recording studios and equipment and things that are going on, the ever changing and spaces and equipment, with the introduction of AI, we're particularly interested in, will that or could that ever render a space like this or a creative process or songwriting archaic?
It depends on who you ask. I don't think so. I think that technology is really cool. Guys bring in like modeling amps, and they say, "Wow, it sounds just like a Marshall with the SM57 in front of it." And I'll say, "Well, let's fire up a Marshall," and I guarantee you,
let's see it.
Yeah, they always nothing sounds better than a mic in front of an amp. Period. And so you can all day long. And I mean, I really think it's a cool thing.
It's cool that you can do that.
Yeah, and I like that as a songwriter. If you're by yourself in your little studio and you want to have a Marshall or a Fender, and it's pretty cool to have those modeling amps and to be able to bounce back and forth. But if you want to put something convincing out, you're not going to do it any better than with a real amp and a real microphone in front of it. I do think it's going to change the industry a little, and for my purposes, there's drums. You can sample drums till you're blue in the face. Mm-hmm. There's nothing like a really good drum kit, and a really good drummer. Nothing like it. Yeah, and there's no robots ever going to replace, Steve Gadd, right, ever. And that's the end of that story. They can try, and I like, I use drum samples. I use them all the time, but they don't take the place of a drummer.
They're incorporated into the mix.
And modeling can be used as a tool, and sampling can be used as a tool.
Sure.
I think that's the thing, though. All of these gizmos and gadgets and all these things are supposed to embellish the writing process with like being easier and more. You could be at home and you can be writing and you can put a drum groove onto this and it sounds somewhat realistic. But I think no matter what, like nothing is ever going to be able to take the place of a creative space like this, like a recording studio where everyone is together and we're recording, even if it's just a couple instruments at the same time, being able to look at each other, communicate. There's something about that energy and the link of being in the same room, recording at the same time, and there's just kind of magic there. And of course there's a lot of success stories with people in their garages and at home in their home offices, and they're making music and it's making it to radio friendly levels and being successful and all that. But maybe you can call me old school, but I just feel that the studio is a place to come and collaborate and work.
It's not zero sum. It's not either or. They can exist together. In fact, they do here in any studio now. And so I think they actually make what we do easier sometimes and better. Editing capabilities now are amazing compared to cutting tape. There's a lot that's changed in a good way. But you also introduce, like I said earlier, you introduce the computer world, and which is a whole different animal, a whole different group of people behind the software and behind the computers, and they have a different, just like in the early days of analog recording, those guys were scientists. They had pocket protectors, and they weren't musicians. They were scientists who ran studios, who built that gear, and
the 2-inch tape.
Yeah.
I think the thing about those companies is that, their consumer has changed, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, the consumer for all the audio companies was recording studios and audio engineers. The question that you asked about, Apple, it's like, how do we raise these prices or how do we make more money? And so they brought all of that to the musicians level instead of the recording studio, and then that's why
broaden their audience and their consumer base.
Yeah.
Then they went from, purchasing a license to subscription based. And
Yeah, that's another, the subscription based model. I get it. I get why they're doing it. But what happens is once they've got you locked in, then compatibility, it lags. It used to be they had to be compatible right away or they didn't sell their stuff. They've already sold it. You're paying for it. You're not going to stop paying for it. So they kind of have
And you have to continue paying for it or you're going to lose all your stuff. And unless you download all your stems and buy another hard drive and put it off into another DAW or whatever, and that raises a great question. So, now there's industry norms and that are profoundly different. And let's talk about those new norms. And do you find anything unethically wrong with them? Do you find anything that is kind of rubs you wrong or just doesn't sit well with your ethos?
Yeah, primarily that. What I said was about not being up to date with. They're not in any hurry to work on compatibility issues. So as Apple, and they don't coordinate with the computer makers. And so as Apple brings out the new Mac Studio is a really cool piece of gear. It's a fast processor. It works really well for audio and graphics, I'm sure. Yeah, but it's not. They're in no hurry. The audio guys are in no hurry to get up to date with the new Mac computer because it doesn't. They're still paying. They're not making any more or less money. So they just take their time in it. It's more than an annoyance to us who do it. But at the same time, I like the end product, and I like what we're able to do better than we were and faster than we were before. And so it's just one of the uncomfortable things. And
trade-off.
You have to find a way.
There's two sides to it.
Yeah, I understand why they're doing it. I guess all you can do is make sure you never do stuff like that. You know what I mean? That's how I look at it. I'll never do that. I wouldn't be like that. So if I don't like the way they.
How much is a subscription for Pro Tools right now for a year again?
110.
I think it's 300, and if you're getting the better version.
Ultimate is, I think it's like 300.
Yeah, 350.
Yeah.
And for guys that are using it professionally, and it's not a lot of money. But for the guy that's
but then you have your subscription for all your plugins.
And
if you change anything, and if they update an OS, and then there's problems. It's just like what happened to us when we went to a higher version of Pro Tools. Or no, what it was.
We tried to migrate.
We went to a quicker, faster, better computer with a different OS, and we had a lot of problems.
Yeah, and just migrating all the plugins from that to the other computer because of the OS, and you're I don't know. And then you have to have 20 logins for every single
you see the cheese grater in there?
So for Big Yard Nation fans, that was Alex Chacon panicking right there.
Sorry.
Did you see the cheese grater in there? I track to Pro Tools 10. I'm never upgrading. Yeah. I'm just tired of them changing everything on me. So I mix in 11, but I track to Pro Tools 10 on a cheese grater that is absolutely stable. It's the most stable thing ever, and just no point in fixing it.
That's a great idea.
Don't connect it to the internet.
Yeah, because my new license.
Your engineer has out that's a great piece of advice.
Yeah, and my new license. If another thing that happened to me recently is if my license is on the internet. So if my connection goes out, Pro Tools just goes down. You're just done. Right, yeah. And that's terrible. That's going to have to be addressed, and it will be. They get around to fixing things, but they're not in the hurry they used to be.
Yeah. So let's pivot here. So we're talking about challenges in the industry, and we're talking about different things. We've talked about software and whatnot, but there's a transformation that's going on in the way digital music is delivered, and the way the consumer is purchasing it and consuming digital music. With Spotify and the new algorithms and whatnot, I know that's on the back end of what you do. You're in the creation process. You're putting that stuff out. I'm anxious to know what your take is on that, because we feel strongly that there needs to be some sort of an awareness put into this, because for the songwriter, for the creator. If Rhyme of the Ancient Mariner was written by AI, would it be the same to us? Would we be? I got a new song coming out called "Poets and Heroes" about those people that we grew up with, right? And so, I mean, it's hard for me to put my head around. You know, I come from vinyl, and all the way through it. Your career goes back that far too, and today, and so. But do these young artists? That's another question, Alex. Do these young artists that are doing do they know the difference, or I mean, is this norm to them? And if it is the norm to them, what's your take on that?
It's a two-edged sword. I mean, the only people who are going to complain are people who have so many people listening to their stuff that they're not getting fairly compensated. But they've gotten themselves to a place where, so if that many people are downloading your stuff, well then, you know, I went and saw Roger Waters and t-shirts were $90 and I get it. I know why now. And so for the discount you get on his music, you're going to pay for it when you buy his t-shirt or when you go to a show. And it was an awesome show. It was great. But you got to find ways to get around it and tour and charge more for tickets and charge more for t-shirts. And if you're that good that people are, you know, getting your stuff for 1,000 listens for a penny, well then, you know, they're going to get you at the merch booth and they're going to get you at the ticket. And there's just, you got to adjust. It's good. It's good stuff. And people like us, you know, is Big Yard Nation in a position to change the industry? Absolutely not. Is Sony Music? Is Taylor? Is Ed Sheeran? Is Roger Waters? But but here's the other side of this too, which is kind of the bell has been rung, is that the consumer is used to, you know, and I've said this before, used to paying $10.99 to Apple Music, and then if that goes up, and they can consume all the music that they want. Right. But if there was an awareness, if there was a paradigm shift, if there was some sort of a, you know, where a movement that said, you know what, I just paid over $1,000 for Billy Joel tickets, okay, and I got into a packed arena. I swear to God, it'll be the last arena date that I ever attend in my life. Promise you that. And yet I had great seats and there were 20 rows in front of me and everybody stood up. I'm 70, by the way. And everybody stood up. And so but if there was a way that said, listen, we're going to charge less money. We're not going to charge so much money for our shows anymore. Let's bring the songwriter. Let's change this industry that's going in the wrong direction. Is that a possibility, or has that bell already been rung? I once heard that if somebody owes you money, the longer they have the money, the harder it is to get back.
That's right.
You're not going to take money out of those guys' pockets, ever. The software people, forget about it. You're not changing their model. I don't care who it is. Taylor Swift, anybody. You're not going to take that money out of their pocket. So my advice would be, you know, yes, you can kick and scream. I see the guy from Cracker, David Lowery. He's a very vocal. He's angry, and I don't blame him, but he's been screaming for 10 years now, and nothing's changed, and so I'd rather just not hear him yell, you know. I hate to say it, I don't mean to poo-poo anything he says, or I just don't know that I don't know if it's worth the hit.
Do you fight it or do you adapt?
Right. I mean, or try to find a way to do both, you know. Right. But don't look. There was a time when the record industry thought radio was the biggest enemy they could possibly have, and they were so wrong. And so, don't immediately assume. I think that this is doom. We have to. I think it needs time to play out, and I think cooler heads will prevail, and somebody will come up with some way to balance it out. Pendulum, you know, it's swinging really hard one way. It'll come back, and that's kind of life to me. And I think.
Listen, I pose those questions rhetorically as a devil's advocate to provoke conversation. I think Curtis was spot on. I mean, it's just the way it is. But it's good to talk about. It's good to get it out there, you know. So great segment, and we're going to be back. We're going to listen to some music here. So, man, thank you for that. That was awesome.
My pleasure.
Great job, Alex. Awesome. For our Big Yard Nation fans, we hope you enjoyed that. We're going to close out this segment and let you know that you can, of course, subscribe if you like what you're seeing. Send it out to your friends and your collaborators. We're here and we're listening to you guys. So subscribe and let us know what you think. You can go to our other socials at Big Yard Nation. Of course, you can go to bigyardnation.com and you can reach out to any one of us. Again, we're listening, and we're excited about what we're doing. We hope you guys are too. So when you're out there getting to wherever it is you're getting to, may all your dreams come true. God bless. We'll see you back here in the yard. Don't go anywhere.